Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tammy here, the lady boss of real estate, and we are live again. For those of you that joined us last night, thank you so much. And because so many of you are isolated at home and practicing safe distancing and staying at home, we have nothing else better to do than get on the internet. But because of that, the internet bandwidth was completely overwhelmed, especially during 7 to 10 p.m., which is when we were online last night. And guess what? We crashed. So it happens, and we apologize. But the lovely, the beautiful, and I knew she would absolutely be willing to be available, Miss Stephanie is here with us again today. And we are super, super excited to be able to continue this conversation. March is truly about celebrating women, extraordinary women, not only just in real estate, but in life. And Stephanie is no exception to this. She is a powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with. She's got a beautiful spirit, a heart that is just bigger than life. Her story is incredible. She's truly the sister that I've never had. I love her so very much. Her success should be emulated by everyone. She gives so unconditionally. She is a grandmother. She is a mother. She's a friend. She's a sister. She's just an extraordinary woman. And she's somebody that you need to listen to, for sure. So thank you, Stephanie, for being here again.
You're quite welcome, Tammy. Anything for you.
Awesome. So to fast forward, for those of you that are maybe joining us that didn't get a chance to join us last night, this is a great opportunity just to kind of share in a fast forward way, so I'm not having to regurgitate and bore everybody, although it was very exciting. Stephanie's journey was really extraordinary, and she shared that with us last night, and I'd love to share it in a nutshell and with all of you. Stephanie began her journey in Baltimore City, and she wanted a way to get out of Baltimore City, which is so amazing. And she decided to go to college, and her dad had shared with her that he wanted her to go to college, and she did. She studied math, which is so amazing. And back then, I don't think a lot of women studied math. So it was really interesting to hear what Stephanie ended up doing with it. And ultimately, she was hired on at NASA. She was one of very, very few women at that time to be brought on by NASA, became a very, very prominent NASA space engineer working on many amazing projects. And at the time, some of the guys would talk about, have you met the other woman? There was only one other woman at the time. That has since become one of Stephanie's lifetime best friends. I believe that you said her name was Linda.
Yes, Linda.
Yeah. And so Stephanie and Linda were the two women in this male-dominated industry. And Stephanie shared how it was very, very competitive and that women were very welcomed. Maybe not necessarily embraced, because at that time it was, predominantly a male-dominated industry. But what an impact they made, what powerful leaders they were, examples that they set for other younger women coming in to follow, that it could be done in the space engineering field. And just such an amazing example of the power of women and lady bosses. And when we're willing to break through the glass ceiling, anything can be possible. And so Stephanie is a mom. She has amazing children. I know her grandchildren are the absolute joy of her life. And I know it's driving her crazy that she can't be with any of them right now and see them. She's well, she's happy. I'm well. My husband is well. We're all happy. And I did just learn today, I've now been touched by someone that has COVID-19. I just found out this morning, one of my friends in Florida tested positive about a week ago. And I am sure that all of us at some point are going to be touched or know someone that comes down with this novel virus. And here at CCRIA, my entire team, our families, our friends, to all of you, please, please heed all of the warnings and the advice of social distancing. Please stay home. I know it's a tough time, and we absolutely keep all of you in our hearts, in our minds, in our prayers. We're sending intentional healing thoughts and light and peace to all of you, that if you are touched, that you will heal quickly, and that you will not have to endure any long-lasting effects. We will all get through this together, I assure you. I know we've had other crashes. Stephanie and I are going to talk a little bit about that. Stephanie has endured market cycles in real estate. I've endured 2 market cycles. And even though this is a viral effect on our economy, it really is almost no different than what happened back in 2007 when our economy crashed, even though that was fine. And what comes behind any of that downturn, as we've talked about in market cycles, is unprecedented opportunity. I mean, it is. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what the real grand effect, if any, right, if any effect there will be on real estate. I am confident, as I'm speaking to attorneys, as I'm speaking to other lenders in, the secondary mortgage market, in the regular lending market, I am sure there is going to be an effect that will be had on this market. Stephanie is a licensed realtor. I want to get her take on what she's seeing. She shared with me that she has access to just incredible tools, incredible resources, and obviously self-isolating. She is glued to her computer as well, tapping into all these great tools and resources. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to her again for just sharing so many different aspects of real estate, not only her personal journey in creating wealth and acquiring real estate, but her experience and thoughts and ideas on what we're looking at in terms of being a realtor, right? What maybe she's seeing online that those of us that aren't a realtor aren't seeing, and what she is hearing and seeing from others. And then also just what her personal journey and experience has been in, as an investor, dealing with a real estate market cycle, right? Market cycles go up, market cycles come down, market cycles go up, market cycles come down. And I am sure that last week, especially, maybe not so much now, there was just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, maybe even some panic that started to set in. What's going to happen? I've got a contract ratified. Is my loan going to be able to close? I just put a property under contract. What can I do? What's going to happen? I know a lot of my inner circle has been reaching out. Several of them have properties under contract. They're ratified and they're like, what do I do? How do I handle this? And we're not going to have all the answers right now. But what I do know is we've got incredible opportunity, and we will get through this. We must stick together. We must support one another. And we've all known that the market was at the very top. We've all known, hopefully, that the market was going to shift. Little did we know that the entire economy was gonna flatline and shut down. And I'm not laughing about it, I'm laughing at it, because we were saying the market's gonna shift, and we just had no idea that it was gonna take a virus, unfortunately, to not only shift and tip us over, but to actually tank us. And so we will get through this, we assure you. Stay tuned. And our normal CCRIA main event was scheduled for last evening, Wednesday, the 25th. And we were doing a panel of lady bosses and women in real estate to support and celebrate and promote all the amazingness that these women are. And so, not to overwhelm everyone, my team and I decided not to do this big panel. Instead, we're doing the next 4 weeks individual interviews with extraordinary women in the industry of real estate. And we're talking about their stories and their experiences and what they think is going to be happening. And so stay tuned. Make sure you check your emails from Team CC RIA. And we are so, so super excited that we get to share this opportunity with you again. So sorry that we crashed out last night due to overwhelm, but guess what? We always go to plan B, and as real estate investors, we have to have a plan A and a plan B. So we just jumped in, tapped right into plan B, and here we are. And if you have any questions after watching this amazing interview with Stephanie and I, please feel free to shoot us over emails at hello@capitalcityreia.com, or you can find us on Meetup, or you can find us on Facebook, or you can find us on Instagram. And if anybody wants to be able to get in direct contact with Stephanie, she is going to share her information. I'm going to ask her to. She is a powerhouse of a real estate investor, but more importantly, she has the tools and the resources as a realtor in the DMV to support you. And so if you are looking to acquire properties, whether single family, whether it's multi-unit, whether it's as a primary residence, whether it's as investments, what I love is that I always forget, I really do. I always forget, and I told this to Stephanie, I said, I keep forgetting you're a realtor because I know she's an investor first, right? But yet, I love the fact that she is a realtor as well, and that's secondarily. And so she wears both sides of the hats. She understands what it means to be a real estate investor. She also understands the real estate side. She works for an amazing broker who totally supports her and gives her all the tools and resources, who's also wildly successful as an investor. Hey, Mr. Greg Bennett, it's been a long time. And so, you know, it takes all of us, right? It takes an entire community to do what we do. My hat's off to you for being here. My hat's off to this beautiful woman. So you were sharing last night when we got so rudely interrupted and crashed that how you got into real estate or why real estate, because here we go from being this wildly successful NASA space engineer to all of a sudden, well, it wasn't all of a sudden, but getting into real estate. So can you share with everybody, I know you kind of started to share that last night, how did you transition, or what was it that caused you to transition from being an engineer to real estate?
Well, as I told you before, I had a boss that kept pushing me to get my master's degree. And it was hard for me getting my bachelor's degree. I had to, as I said, I worked 2 jobs and went to school full time. And that was treacherous. And once I got at NASA, I had 1 job and I couldn't believe I just had 1 job. And it was like, I'm having fun. I'm seeing people. I'm living life. I want to have fun. I don't want to go.
You had some breathing room.
I was breathing. And I didn't, I just didn't cherish the idea of going back to school again. So but he kept badgering me because we would meet once a week. And he would be like, well, did you get any master's program again? And
why do you know why? I mean, why did he
wanted me
why
to
did he push you so hard?
He wanted me to be competitive with other people that were around.
Okay.
As I told you, it was a very competitive environment. Everybody was competing and they had their, PhDs and, practically everybody had their master's degree. And he didn't want me not to have my master's degree, but I was content with my bachelor's degree because I just wanted to have fun. So I know I got drawn to real estate because my mother was an entrepreneur and she taught me how to be an entrepreneur. I think I mentioned last night with school, I would sell Avon, I sell Mary Kay, and I always had some little business on the side. And I liked having a side business, so to speak. And when I bought my first house, the realtor that sold me the house, I was thinking, I can do better than he did. And I should look into this real estate thing. And actually, I started looking and seeing whether I could get my master's in real estate so I could say I had a master's. But I just ended up
Get them
getting,
off your back.
yeah, to get them off my back. And I ended up just getting my real estate license. And I often call my real estate license my master's degree.
Well, it is. I'm sure between all the seminars and the lessons learned and the mistakes and the successes and the failures, you probably have spent as much in real estate as you would have on a master's degree. But on the street, I feel we learn more on the street than we do in the books anyway.
That's true.
So you probably do have, you probably actually have your PhD.
Probably so. In 2008, oh my God, it was a time that I want to tell everybody they are so fortunate to be listening to you and all of the advice and all of the knowledge that you share with us. Because when the market crashed in 2007-8, I didn't have all of these kinds of tools and webinars and things. I just sort of went through it alone. And it always, when things happen, it's always better to go through things with somebody else or somebody else that knows more than you. It's like, I learned a long time ago and from you that you have to be around people that know more than you do. You can't be around those people that know less than you or don't know what in the world or don't encourage you. So, this is a great time to educate yourselves. And while we're in the house, I'm listening to webinars all over the place. I'm learning different tools and different things that I'm really kind of excited that I have this free time to do that I'm not running all around and just concentrating on learning and educating myself even more in the business. So this is a great time. But in 2007, I actually had bought my second rehab property.
Well, let's go back just a moment. So when did you officially retire from NASA? What year?
Oh, 2015.
Oh,
yeah, it was just 5 years ago.
So you actually were still employed at NASA when we had the crash.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. So the first house that you bought to get your master's degree, right? was that your first home ever that you purchased as your primary residence, or was that your first investment property?
Well, neither. The first house that I bought for my personal residence, I used another realtor. And he sort of showed me the process, and we went through the whole, home purchasing.
He's the one you said, I can do better than this. Let me find out about this. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, and I came up with creative ideas. And so, but anyway, he was the one that encouraged me. I could get my real estate license and do better than him. But then I just contacted all my friends and my family. I drew up a list of my sphere, and I sold them all houses or listed the houses. And I did that all in my spare time because I was still working full time. But I used leave from NASA and, the minute I got off of work, I was doing real estate. So I did it on a full-time basis. And my first year in real estate, I sold 10 houses.
And what year was that? Because
that was in 1995.
Okay. So the market was great back then. What were the interest? Do you remember? I'm trying to remember. What were the interest rates in 95?
I can't remember. They were nowhere near what they are now.
And I don't think they had hit the 12 to 15.
Yeah, there was like the 10 to 15% range.
So obviously the market was really great at that point.
Right.
In your first year, you sold 10 properties?
Yes.
Wow.
I was working like a dog because then there was no electronic. You had to go deliver contracts by hand.
Yep.
And if there was anything you need to change, it had to be changed by
There was
hand.
no MLS.
It was,
Did you? We
no,
had
it
the
was.
Haynes directory, the crisscross directory. Yeah.
And they had just started. It was some kind of like teletype machine that we used for the MLS, but they were only located in the offices. So there was no PCs that you could draw it
No
on and
cell
off.
phones.
No,
No.
we started gradually going into faxing.
Yep.
So, you know, it was very antiquated back then. We worked hard. I look back now, I was like, how did I do all of that and still work?
It wasn't really antiquated, Stephanie, because at the time that was our technology. Today, that is antiquated
Right.
and antique, right? It's like I remember mentioning to my kids, they found a box of 45s
Mm-hmm.
and large, records, and they're like, oh, an 8-track. And the
Oh,
little
yeah.
plastic things, remember that you put inside the
This,
45s to put them on the record, on the
this.
turntable, and they're like, "What is this? What is this thing?" We will probably have those same conversations about CDs,
Yeah,
CDs.
yeah.
So 10 houses. So you were busy. So you must have thought, wow, this is amazing. Like, what an incredible thing this thing called real estate is, as hard as it was back then.
Right.
And yet you still were successful without all the tools, without all the resources, without the internet, without cell phones, and yet you're still wildly successful. What exactly do you personally attribute your success to, right? You're working full time, yet you don't have all the tools, you don't have all the resources that we do today. So now let me get up on my soapbox. I can't find any deals. There's nothing out there. All the excuses that we hear, I know you hear them too, right? We hear them all the time, over and over again. That doesn't work here. There's nothing out there in my price range. All the good deals, blah, 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 blah. And yet we have access today to more tools and resources than we've ever had. But a lot of people don't realize that. So what do you attribute your success without tools, without resources, without computer, without the internet, without cell phone, without any of that, working full time back in the mid to late 90s, and you still were wildly successful? That's personal. What was that you tapped into to create that level of success in your life?
Well, I contributed to two things. One, my mother. When I was in high school, my mother got very sick, and actually she went blind.
Mm.
And after I graduated high school, I went to one semester of college. I thought I wanted to be a nurse, but God had other things for me. And after that first semester, I had to drop out because she needed constant care. Well, um, she was sick for the next 2 years, and then she passed away. And before she passed away, she wanted me to go back to college. She felt so bad because I had to drop out to take care of her.
Wow.
And so she wanted me to go to college. And actually, the same semester I enrolled back in college, and that's when I enrolled in Coppin. And that same semester, right after I enrolled, I had probably only been in school for about a month, and she passed away. And at her funeral, the pastor said, "You know, your mother wants you to finish college." And I took that to heart. It was like, no way, there was no way I wasn't going to finish. And it was it was the best thing she ever said to me, because I did finish, and then God blessed me with a great job, and oh my goodness, just the world
Wow.
opened up to me.
Wow.
And I told you I had many jobs in college, and while I was in college, I used to sell Mary Kay. And Mary Kay said, and I used to like Mary Kay because she would always have these wonderful sayings. And one of the things that I've carried out in life is one of her sayings: consistency is the key to success. So even when you fall down, you pick yourself back up, or you cry a little bit. And I remember when I used to, when I break up with a boyfriend or something, I cry. I was like, okay, give yourself a month to cry about him. And then I realized I don't need a whole month. Let me just cry for a week or something, and then get back up and let's do something better. So I'd say that, because even when you're not successful, you don't find that first deal right away, you just have to keep on doing it. And one of the things I want to say is that, oh man, when you find that first deal quickly, it's really not a good thing. I remember my first deal that I did as an investor. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
What year was that?
Oh man, that must have been in about 2000.
Okay. And when did you decide, or what was it that you were doing? You were still employed full time.
Right.
You were getting into real estate, but you were a realtor.
Right. And I was working hard. And I kept thinking, every time I saw somebody doing an investment, I'm like, they're not working as hard as I am. I'm working like a dog. And how'd I get $10,000 in one deal? And it took me 6 months to make $10,000, or a year to make it. And I kept looking at people around me that were.
So because I was a realtor too, right? And what I learned as a realtor, and I loved being a realtor, but it was the same kind of thing. To me, an investment property, it's funny, but seriously, my idea of an investment property was the rich people that had a beach house, like a second home at the beach, right? That was an investment property. And as a realtor, when I was a realtor, I always went out on for sale by owner, FSBO appointments to get the listing. And one of the sellers was an investor in Laurel on Broken Bridge Road, and he was swinging the hammer. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, I bought this HUD home. I didn't even know what a HUD home was.
Right.
And it was a foreclosure, and he was fixing it up. And this is when I'm a realtor. So that was when I got started thinking differently about being an investor. So here you are, a realtor, you're successful, you're getting a commission, right? You're adding supplemental income. But what happened, or when did you have that aha moment to go, wait a minute, did you meet another investor? Did you find a property? Like, do you remember what was it that made you go, wait a minute, I need to do something different here?
Well, it was this guy from Utah, and he was advertising the investing realtor. And I'm like, what is he talking about, the investing realtor? And so I went to one of his then free webinars, or where they, rope you in and, give you just enough just to make you want more. And so I started listening to him about what an investing realtor was, because I had never heard of such. And so I would say he sort of made the light bulb go off, and I started my education there. It was expensive education going with those gurus across the country. But yeah, he made the light bulb go off in the investing arena. And they sort of give you enough rope to hang yourself.
Have you seen, I'm learning so much today about you and from you, which is so extraordinary. Just when we think we know a lot about someone, we keep learning more, which is so beautiful. It amazed me as a realtor, and I'm curious to see if it does you. How many realtors knew nothing and still to this day know nothing or very little about investing in a portfolio for themselves, for their future. And I just had a conversation not this long ago with an inner circle member whose mom is a very successful broker for many, many, many years. And if she doesn't work, if she doesn't hustle, if she doesn't grind out another listing or another sale, there's no check. You know what I mean? There's no income because there's no rental properties. So do you see that also? Is it amazed you how many realtors don't understand investing?
Yeah, in the era that I became a realtor, they were also very stingy. If they knew something, they didn't want to share it. They kept everything to themselves. And it was very hard to find a mentor in the being a realtor. And I think that type of mentality lends itself for you not learning about other areas and other ways in real estate. So you think that real estate is, or a realtor is the only way that you can buy a house. I was completely amazed. It's like, oh, you can buy a house another way? I guess so, and that kind of intrigued me to look at other things. But I think like you said, the common realtor, they just stick to the rules and stick to, this is what the board says and this is the way you're supposed to do it. And they don't open themselves up to other avenues of real estate. And that's why they don't understand it.
But Stephanie, it's actually really scary and frightening, right? Look at where we are right now today. Okay. They say that the average realtor makes what, 50,000 a year. Okay. Yeah. Average on a national level. The average realtor on a national level makes 50,000 a year. That's poverty. And yet in a time like where we are right now today, as an investor, cash flow is king. I mean, that is what carried us through when the market crashed in 7 and 8, is having rental properties, having a rental portfolio. And if all you have available to you is a commission, as most realtors do, what do you do in a time like this when a property doesn't sell? I know there's thousands and thousands and thousands of realtors that went out of business in 2007-8 when the market crashed. So it amazes me. It still does. It just amazes me how many realtors are out there that are licensed that are still hustling for the commission. And instead of doing that as a side gig or a full-time gig while simultaneously building a portfolio for themselves. And I so applaud you for doing that, for getting that, for understanding that, for sharing that today, because it is immense. I mean, the property that you acquired, and we both know how hard it was to get through it, but that one property alone, just inside the Beltway, has completely changed your life at $4,500 a month. Maybe now it's up to $5,000 a month in cash flow and income. That's what people need to understand. That's why investing is so critical. So this individual in Utah starts your head spinning about building and being an investing realtor. I love that term, by the way. And so you go out to tap into your tools and resources as a realtor, and you find your first deal on the MLS at that time, or how did you find your first deal?
Networking. I started after him. I was telling everybody, I was telling other realtors, they wouldn't listen. Hey, you need to look at investing. We need to get more education. And I started educating myself. Every free opportunity I found the RIAs. I started going to them, and then at the RIA meetings, they would have a lot of guest speakers, and I followed them, or maybe utilize some of their tools, and I started telling other realtors. Well, another realtor who I had started mentoring, she was becoming a successful realtor, and she had a client, and the client told her that the bank wasn't going to allow her to list her property. She had missed a payment, and she didn't have time to list her property before they were going to foreclose on her. And so she called me and said, "What should I do? I know you've been looking at this investment stuff, and what should I do?"
Right,
And,
right.
and so I'm like, I'll pay up her mortgage. I'll get her to move out. I'll see. I just went to talk to her, and I was like, "What do you want?" And she wanted a small amount of money. She didn't want to ruin her credit. She had 3 kids. She was like 7 months pregnant, and her husband was on house arrest. I mean, she was really motivated. Her mother lived with her.
Wow.
Yet she was behind in her mortgage, and she knew if she didn't she couldn't afford to pay the mortgage, and she wanted to move to an apartment, and she didn't want to ruin her credit by being delinquent with this mortgage company. So I said, well, and she didn't want to walk away empty-handed because she had equity in her property. So I made a deal with her, and I said, I'll bring your mortgage current. I know you can't do that today, but I brought her mortgage current, which was about a couple $1,000s, and I paid her back HOA fees. I told her I would give her $1,000 up front. I'd give her $500 with the contract that we signed, and the other $500 when she moved out. It's because I knew she needed moving expenses.
Right.
And so
Today you can't bring somebody's mortgage current.
no, because she was facing foreclosure and looking to be she was in default. That's what she was, in default. And that's the terminology that as an investor, you can't address. An investor is not supposed to address a seller in default because so many people have taken advantage of them.
And that's in Maryland only, correct? And
Well,
that's regarding PIFA, the
yeah,
PIFA law. Okay.
right.
Okay.
And so you just can't, you're not supposed to do that. But I didn't take advantage of her. I was fair and square with her. She moved out in a week or two. The house was in good condition. It had new appliances. It needed paint and carpet. And I spent about
Wow.
$1,000. I fixed it up, and and it was in a seller's market because it was like I didn't even put it on the MLS. I sort of advertised word of mouth, and I sold it at the asking price. And we went to settlement. I made so much that I even gave her extra. I can't remember the exact numbers, but she had wanted a certain amount, and I told her I would give her that certain amount. Plus, after I had gotten reimbursed for, paying her back mortgage and HOA and all of that stuff, I think I even gave her, and it was around Christmas time, so I actually gave her an extra $2,000 on top of what she asked for.
Wow.
Because I was so thankful I made so much. And I felt so sorry for her in her position. I was glad I could help her.
Now,
And
at that time, had the thought crossed your mind to keep the property as a rental, or were you not even in that space? You were just like, let me list it, let me make my money. Do you remember how much you made?
I made like $55,000.
And at that time, that had to have been probably one of the biggest paper checks you had ever received.
It did. It was the biggest. I mean, those 10 houses that I sold in that year, I didn't make $55,000.
And what
So,
did you do with that 55,000?
well, I took that 55,000 and I bought two other houses, which was the worst thing I could have ever did. This is what I was saying, that sometimes when this deal fell in my lap, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no coach. All I had gone to was some seminars. I was fumbling around. I really had no idea what in the world I was doing.
Now, I know I raised my hands up and you said it was the worst thing I ever did.
It was.
What I'm raising my hands up to is that you didn't blow the money on stupid stuff. You actually reinvested it. Even if it ended up not being a good deal, you reinvested it back into more real estate. And that's what's important.
Yeah, I did, and I lost every penny of it and more. I because that deal was. This is what I'm saying.
Were you too excited? Were you emotionally involved in it, and you just went out? You had this big pile of money.
It was burning my hands.
You were like invincible, and it was burning in your pocket. And you were like, I did it. I can do it again.
Yep.
Just went out and bought the first two properties that showed up.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I didn't know how to do my numbers. I didn't know to wait until that right one came along. If it took me a year,
yep.
I didn't learn those lessons. I was like,
you got your PhD though. That's where you got your PhD. That was 55. Actually, that's probably half of a master's. So that's like $55,000 percent of your master's.
This is what I'm saying. You have to, see the success. When it comes too easy, it just doesn't work right. It doesn't.
But what happened? Like, what are the lessons that you learned from that? Because we're laughing about it now, right? Mm-hmm. We are. Mm-hmm. I know you weren't laughing at it then, and I've been through the same kind of thing. I'm very emotional. I've made mistakes, buying incorrectly. It happens. We don't have a crystal ball. What were the biggest lessons that you took with you from those two acquisitions where you lost 55,000?
Yeah. One was know your numbers. I had no clue what the Mayo formula was, and I did not even do it. I don't even know what the heck I based buying those properties on. And two was don't do partnerships. The first one I bought, it actually was with Annette, and we bought it as a partnership. They were going to do the work, they were going to use my money, and blah, 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 blah. It went so terribly wrong. As she mentioned at one of your workshops, we weren't friends for a while. It broke our relationship. Mm-hmm. And that was, I will never do, I never say never, but I don't think I'll ever do a partnership again, like that.
I agree.
And know your numbers.
Yeah.
And if the numbers don't work, walk away right away. If the numbers don't work, see you later, bye. And
that is literally two words, quote, end quote, due diligence. I mean, that's all it is. I think it's all it is, but really it is quote unquote due diligence. And, we hear that saying all the time, oh, you make your money when you buy, which is true. And you make your money when you sell, profit, true. But there's more to it than that. It's due diligence. And part of due diligence is also not getting so wrapped up into our own emotions. Yes, we're human. We can't help but get excited, right? When we've made this massive pile of money, we can't help but feel confident. We can't help but get excited, and we go out and buy another deal. But real estate has always been here. Real estate will always be here.
Yes.
And one of my biggest lessons through my mistakes and failures is to not get rid of our emotion, but to harness our emotion, suppress our personal emotion, and really step back and breathe and look at your numbers and make sure that it's not an emotional acquisition, but it is a numbers based acquisition, and that it makes sense. And so I agree with you. I'm sure that really racked your world and devastated you, because that was a lot of hard work, and it was gone like that. So how did you exit out of those two mistakes? How did you get rid of them, or what did you end up having to do?
They weren't back to back. Well, they were back to back, but I bought the first one, and it was excuse me. It I lost probably. I was able to sell the first one,
Okay.
but I lost about $10,000 on that one. And then I bought another one, and the numbers just weren't right. And that's when the market crashed.
Oh, and you're
So,
still employed?
yes,
And how did you have a loan on?
yes, a
Okay.
big one. It was a $300,000 house.
Oh,
And the first one was a smaller house, and it was only like, it was under 200,000. Like, I think it was like 150, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but the big one I definitely remember. It was over 300,000 that I paid for it. And I was having trouble with contractors getting it rehab. I had a lot of contractor problems. So I spent a lot of money in getting it rehab. And then the market crashed. And then that house was worth about $200,000.
oh,
So it was no way I could sell it. I couldn't sell it. And I ended up having to rent it. And I rented it to a Section 8 person who was a great tenant. And I learned a lot about renting then, how to screen renters. And
right.
I always have read certain books. I remember reading how to rent to people, and I read this, I can't remember, a Macmillan book on how to screen renters and make sure you go to their house and see how they live now. And so I developed the process for that, and I ended up with a great tenant. She always paid her rent on time. And she ended up, after about 2 years, so the rent that she was paying was probably like $1,000 less than my mortgage. So all of that money, even if I didn't have that much left over, I was supplementing every month the mortgage. And finally, after about a couple of years, she decided that she wanted to buy the house, because she must have lived there for about 4 years or so. And she was eventually, Section 8 was reducing her, increasing the amount of rent she had to pay. So she was getting very close to not paying, or HUD not paying anything at all. So her income was going up. And she always was asking me to fix things up. She loved the house. And so she ended up buying it from me, and I had to short sale it to her.
Wow.
So I short sold it to her. And I tell you, investing and short selling is certainly, as an investor, they made me come out my pocket with another $10,000
Uh,
at they wiped me completely out underneath the table, because they didn't forgive, um, and during a short sale,
right.
the bank didn't forgive 100%. And then at income tax time, it was like $90,000 that they forgave. They made me claim that. $90,000 as income. Oh, I thought I had lost my mind. I was so depressed.
And yet you're still here.
Some would say I'm crazy, huh? But consistency is the
No,
key.
but so am I. I mean, but there's so many people that have one failure and they just give up, Stephanie.
It was, I guess I do have my PhD then, because I'm like, I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. I sort of retracted and was breathing a little bit, being
Most
thankful.
people would have thrown in the towel at that point, I mean, literally, most people would say, and I've seen it time and time again, this real estate stuff doesn't work. They have one mistake. But yet, how many years or how many times did Michael Jordan stand there and attempt to make a 3-point free shot or whatever? I don't know my terms on basketball. And the percentages of failure, or I mean, any, how many times did Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell attempt, to learn about electricity? And yet all we hear about, though, are the successes. And we say, oh my God, that person's so successful, that person's so lucky. And like I love my gurus and all my friends. I'm not putting anybody down, but it's what I love about CC RIA, what I love about my inner circle, what I love about who we are as a community is that we're willing to share the real world, the real life. We're willing to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, because this is the truth. Like this is what really happens. And we don't quit, right? Failure isn't an option. And we don't give up, and so many people do. And then they say, man, I wish I had just stuck with it. Or, I've heard people say, this time, this market, I'm going to be ready, right? Well, I should have, I would have, but yet, here you are. So from there, you said, I'm not going to quit, which is
not quitting.
So what did you what was next?
Next thing was, I'm not rehabbing the doggone thing. I don't know how to do this. I'm not gonna jump in and do it. I started writing offers on short sales, because after going through it, I said, I've got more information about it.
I can do this.
And I can do this. So, and then I started doing that. And then what happened was, I came to one of your CC RIA meetings. I started, feeling myself back up again. It's like, I need to go to some more meetings. I need to be educated. I blamed myself for not having the right information, for not knowing my numbers. I was really beating myself up. It's like, you majored in math and you didn't know your numbers. So I just beat myself up about that. And then I said, you know what? You got to go get some more education. You got to do better. And I did. I went to all of the RIAs in the area. I went to Baltimore RIAs. I went to PG RIAs. Just kept going. And actually at one of your RIAs, is when I first met you long ago. I met Marcel Humphrey. And he, and this is one of the things that I learned, to have a local coach. If you're going to get a coach, make sure they're local.
Yes. One of my biggest lessons too.
Yeah. So, and then I took off. He encouraged me and supported me, and I took off in the wholesaling. And so that led me to that long career in wholesaling. So, after wholesaling for, I don't know how many years I did that, for about 8 years.
Yeah. And that was when, right after the market had crashed, right?
Right. Well, that's when I did the short sale. Well, a couple of years after the market crash, I did the short sale. And I just said, you know what, I can't do the rehab thing. And then, I said, okay, let me maybe put my hand in the water for wholesaling.
And the timing was perfect. You didn't know it then, but now because as that market came down and it's sitting down there in the lull, right down here in the bottom.
Yes.
We were doing the short sales, and then it became REOs, which became beautiful opportunities to buy, but then it became more difficult. But wholesaling is at a prime.
Right.
And just like just like markets shift, okay, so do our strategies.
Right.
And our strategies have to be in alignment with what is going on in the market, what is going on with the cycles. So as that market comes down and it's sitting down here in this bottom swell, that is one of the most opportune times to get back into wholesaling, which is what you did. And you did. None of us knew that at the time.
No.
Obviously, that was one of the greatest things you ever did, was get into wholesaling when that market was down in the lull.
Exactly.
So, ladies and gentlemen, guess where we are again, right?
Yes.
We are right back down in that lull, which is going to change the market cycle. And I can't guarantee anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see wholesaling really becoming front and center again. That will be indicated by, you know, what ends up happening with a lot of what is going on in the real estate market. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a big surge in wholesaling as a strategy, which is really exciting. And in fact, in April, we were going to be talking about wholesaling. So the timing may be really good. But I remember it was about 8 years, and you were becoming very well known in our DMV, you know, circle and on the streets of doing wholesaling, and it was very good to you.
It was very, very good to me. I did one deal in DC where I made my highest commission ever at $60,000.
Wow. An investor profit or a real estate realtor commission?
A wholesale
fee.
assignment fee.
Wow. Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, that was about 4 years ago.
Wow.
It was about 4 years ago.
And then I remember you and I came back full circle, and you had said, Tammy, I love what I'm doing. I love wholesaling, but it is becoming more difficult. I'm not, you know, in my 20s anymore. I don't know if I want to sustain this physically. And I really need to build a portfolio and have some cash flow. And it was awesome. That's when you and I came back full circle and connected. And it's been such an amazing journey with you to be able to see you building what it is that you're building. And at that time, I remember you had 3 deals. They were wholesale deals, I believe, that
No,
you
they
acquired.
were deals.
Weren't they wholesale deals that you bought, or they were rehab deals you bought?
They were wholesale deals that I had acquired through wholesaling that I kept.
Got it.
And I didn't want to, and you know, after I had such bad experience before, I said I shouldn't do it, but I did partner with somebody else that had a lot of rehab experience because I didn't want to walk it alone.
Right, which makes sense.
So, and what I had been seeing is that I kept, and you know, education is so, you know, the evolution of it. I think back, you just asked me with my first deal, did I think about keeping that? That would have been a wonderful rental property. And I didn't have enough education. All I knew from investing was basically, and so I didn't even think about that because it just wasn't in my path at that time. But as I, you know, over the years, I start doing all this wholesaling. I kept saying, geez, I wholesaled that property to this person and they made a boatload of money. That could have been me. And I kept giving away all of these deals for a quick fix. And that I got into that mentality, and I'm like, I've got to change this. I've got to stop giving away those deals And when I did those 3 rehabs in a row, and actually I did them for a purpose because my plan was to start buying and holding. And I knew that I needed really references, so to speak, for hard money. And I needed some of my own money. So I'm like, I'll partner with somebody else. I've got these great deals. And then I'll be able to go out on my own and do it by myself. And so that really helped me because I had those 3 rehabbing deals underneath my belt. I was able to negotiate a lower hard money interest rate and lower points.
Right.
So it served me well.
But now you know very well that we don't need anyone ever in order to be able to create, acquire, and accomplish. That's a crazy story that we all create in our head, that we have to have this partner, right, in order to be able to do more. And to watch you acquire and create and work with the contractor, and it was tough. It was a lot of challenges. There was a lot of lessons learned.
But it was unusual property. It wasn't
it was outside the box
property. Yeah, it was out of the box property.
Yeah, and I am sure, I know, we got to be careful of time here, but I do know, in wrapping up, that even in the worst of times, even in times of uncertainty, even in times of unrest, that life still goes on, and people always need a place to live.
They do.
I mean, real estate is an asset that is fixed, it is tangible,
yes.
That it will always bring some level of wealth,
yes,
multiple levels of wealth into our lives. And when I look at, even if you never do another acquisition, which I know you are, but even if you don't, this one acquisition and all of the wealth that it's going to bring to you, I am sure that if we were to have it appraised again, it's probably going to be much, much higher than what it was a year and a half ago when you completed it. And that's only just this much of it. That's in addition to the monthly cash flow, the great tenants that you have.
Great tenants.
It's in addition to the tax deductions that you get and all of the appreciation. And I mean, it was not easy, for sure. So looking back over this, 10, 15, 20 year journey of being an investing realtor and creating a portfolio, having done short sales, having done wholesaling, having done rehabbing, there's a lot that we've shared. If you could do it all over again, knowing what you know now, what 3 things, if any, would you have done differently? Or would you share as advice to someone that is listening to this interview?
Well, the first thing is, you said we don't need partners, and I know I don't need anybody anymore, but I do need a coach. And I thank you for being my coach. And I thank you for what we share together. And I would say everybody needs a coach. Mm-hmm. You need someone that knows more than you know. And that is where, number one, that I would start. And the 2 coaches that I had they changed my life. You have changed my life. Marcel has changed my life. And I don't know if I could have done it without you. I probably would have struggled a lot more, just like that first deal. I didn't know what I was doing. And the second thing is, the first deal, what I know now, I would not have flipped that property. I would have kept it. I would have had it in my portfolio today.
So would you have kept it, or would you say that the second thing would be to know your numbers and buy right?
The first deal that I did, well, the first rehab, that was just the first deal I did where I helped that family.
Right.
The numbers were right there. I didn't know it, but they just turned out to be right.
Yeah.
And that's why I made so much money. But I wouldn't have sold it. I would have kept it. And it would have probably profited me more than $50,000 in all these years.
Right.
So if I still had it now, I probably would have made hundreds, a lot more money. The mortgage probably would be free and clear.
Now, knowing what you know about wholesaling and rehabbing and acquiring, would you maybe use two of the strategies? Like as you're looking for properties for acquisition, maybe use wholesaling as a secondary strategy to create chunks of money? Or would you, looking back, would you stay totally laser focused on just acquiring properties for long-term buy and hold?
Like you just said, the wholesaling for chunks of money and acquiring for buy and hold.
Awesome.
And now, knowing what I know, every situation you have to apply whatever strategy that works.
Amen.
It may be a flip, it may be a wholesale, it may be the buy and hold. It's often dependent on the seller, the situation, and what the numbers look like.
Or a retail listing, which
Right.
you are able to use by being a realtor.
And actually, that's my marketing strategy right now. I have a VA for cold calling, and I just had a conversation with the VA yesterday and said, I want to circle marketing. I don't want you to call someone up and say, we buy houses. I want you to say, we buy and sell houses.
Powerful. One word.
Yes. And so they don't get because when you say we buy houses and you're calling a list, people automatically think you're an investor and you're going to discount them. But I want them to know that we will sell your house too, and we can list it.
Right.
If the numbers don't, and a lot of times the numbers aren't going to make sense for us to buy it for cash anyway. So if it doesn't, and I had about 6 months ago, I had a seller who was willing to list her house for whole at discount, but it was still at the top of the Mayo and a little bit over, so nobody was interested. So then I just turned around and listed it.
Awesome.
So that's
as an investor, an investing realtor, do you want to share the best contact and the best way to get a hold of you? Whether somebody is interested in having you support them in buying a property, buying a multi-unit, whether it's somebody that's interested in maybe selling a home or whatever, are you open to that? Would you mind sharing your information? And if so, what is your preferred method of anybody communicating with you?
My preferred method of communication is texting. So just send me a text message and I'll eventually respond, and we can work out something. Practically everybody in the inner circle has my info, but you can text me at 301-675-4259. And that's my direct phone. It's not my business phone. So you can just contact me on my direct line.
And as a realtor, are you licensed well, actually, I should ask you, what states are you currently actively licensed in?
I am licensed in Maryland. But if you have any needs for DC or Virginia, I have lots of referrals for them.
Okay. And your broker is licensed in DC and Virginia as well. So
Yeah.
Obviously, just because you personally maybe don't have a license in Virginia or DC doesn't mean that you can't support someone or help someone
Right.
in those areas.
Yes.
So we've gone through a downturn. We came through it.
Yes.
We're here now at another downturn. I believe, my opinion is this one is going to be much shorter lived. Our last crisis, it took us several years.
Yes, it
It
did.
really did. It took us several years to pull out of that because banks were shutting down. There was massive confusion and uncertainty on a federal level. They didn't know what was going on economically. This was an intentional economic shutdown. Intentional. And now, as of last night, there's a $2 trillion stimulus. I'm not sure if that's going to hurt or help, but for right now in the short term, it probably is going to help. And then, so we don't know really what real estate is what they're predicting, what they're saying. I'm getting and having conversations with others. Have you had any conversations? What is your broker saying? What are other realtors saying? Are you seeing massive fear? Are you seeing calm? What has been, I know it's so new, but what are you seeing? What is your opinion?
Well, what I'm seeing is that in real estate, like you said, everybody's always going to need a place to live. And there are people who, a lot of times we think of real estate in terms of, oh, I want to move, I want to sell my house. But there's still people out there who have to sell their houses. There's still people that get divorced. There's still probates. There's still people who are motivated to sell for whatever reason. And so they're not going to go away.
Right.
And so what my broker has said is that don't shut down your business.
Amen. Amen.
Don't stop doing work. Find creative things like virtual tours to sell your property, or and now we have Zoom and all of these video chats. And so don't shut down your business, but just move cautiously. We're
Right.
not sure what's going to happen. I don't see a lot of fear, at least in the real estate area, because I think that people realize that real estate is not going to go away. It's not going to be a downturn. Only the people that were ready to give up and aren't going to be consistent are going to go away. We see a lot of that, like you see a lot of that.
Yeah. And I know we're probably, again, we don't have a crystal ball, but creative financing, creative deal structuring, terms,
Yeah.
buying a property on terms. This is such an amazing way of understanding investing and understanding, like you said, it doesn't have to be a purchase and sales contract where a seller buys to a buyer using a realtor, getting a traditional loan. There
Right.
are so many ways, there are so many opportunities, there are so many ways to get creative.
Yeah.
And the most important thing to always remember about real estate, as long as two people agree,
Yeah.
it's a deal.
Yes.
Right? It's a deal. And so just like the conversation that we're going to have tomorrow with this motivated seller on this multi-unit property, you said, look, he's getting married and the property's owned free and clear, and OMG, this is an amazing situation to talk about creative deal structuring, not only for the buyer, but for the seller too, right?
Absolutely. Win-win.
So it is really just an amazing opportunity. So in the midst of any fear, if this is the first downturn as an investor that you're going through and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I shouldn't be doing real estate. I'm telling you, I know Stephanie will tell you, I know anybody will tell you, the worst thing any of us could do is quit. The worst thing that any of us could do is back away. The worst thing that any of us could do is put our head, down in between our legs and put our head down inside of a pillow and say, oh my God, what am I going to do? And how am I going to make this happen? And I'm just getting started. That's not what we should be doing at all.
No.
We are here We're not going anywhere. We're a community. We support you. Do we maybe have to do things a little differently? Yeah, right? Just like these types of webinars and interviews and virtual meetups and things like that, which are a lot of fun. But guys, we didn't have this type of technology back then, and we do now. And what a gift. What a gift that we have. And we just ask that everybody stay safe, and that all of your loved ones stay safe, and that even if you start to get some cabin fever, remember, we will get through this, and failure is just simply not an option. And we're going to have fun. You know, we are going to keep the motivation up and the positive energies up, and we absolutely will get through this. I'll get through it. You'll get through it. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it a time of uncertainty? Yes, absolutely. But we will get through. Stephanie, is there anything else you'd love to share in closing?
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for all your support. And I look forward to the opportunities that we may be presented with.
Yeah. Well, we got a big one tomorrow.
Yes.
So here we
Yes.
go. Lady Boss extraordinaire. And so thank all of you so much. Be safe, be blessed, stay well, stay healthy. And until next week, until next time, here's to all of you and your extraordinary success. We love you. God bless. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.